let's just have a conversation.
Okay.
Okay? Let's just have a conversation. I know this has been a week. How would you describe the week itself for you?
I think it's organized chaos. You know, it's one of those things where you have to be the centerpiece of all of the hype, all of the excitement, all of the getting the word out and the marketing and all that stuff. And, you know, I went to the Monday Night Football game with my dad and my son, and I never get Wi-Fi on the plane. But I ordered the Wi-Fi on the plane so I could individually text, you know, 100+ people and send emails and post on social media. And for 3 hours straight from our flight, I just was on the phone. My neck hurt when I got off the plane because I was looking down so much. But I think it's been a culmination of a lot of things. Physically draining because you're genuinely working so much and so hard from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, and then mentally draining because you're putting yourself out there to the world. I mean, I always find this funny. I do videos all the time. You are in here doing them with me so often, and the team, and it's easy. I enjoy it. I love it. The book was not easy. The book wasn't, completely painless. It was a process, and then it's the written word, which is so permanent. I think I'm still old school enough that even though video is permanent, it's not the same as putting down a book and binding it and having it for the world to read. And you can't change anything that you write. You can build upon it, but it's a part of who you were when you wrote it. And a lot of times when it comes out, there's already things that you would adjust or change. And so, at least if you're an entrepreneur brain like mine. So it's been organized chaos because emotionally, physically, mentally, it's draining, but it's exciting. You're sharing a part of what you believe in with the world. And I think that's part of the reason I did it.
I'd love for you to tell me what it was like, how you got that into your hands. Like, was it on Amazon? Like, how did it come to you?
Yeah, I actually went to Monday Night Football and watched the Dallas Cowboys beat the Eagles live and had the greatest seats and a great experience, a peak moment of living a rich life. It was awesome. And we were up late, and it was midnight the day the book launches, and I ordered 3 copies of the paperback so that it would be primed and delivered to me immediately because I still hadn't seen a copy of the printed book because of all the printing delays and all of the shipping delays. And so this was the first thing I was able to see. So it was super cool just getting it and opening it up and showing the kids. And I think the first thing I did was I went right over here to the dedication, and I showed my wife. I called my boys downstairs and I said, all right, see, I wrote it to Adrian and our boys. I'm so grateful for the love and support, to my parents for helping me become the man I'm still becoming, which I felt was really important because this is a representation of a work in progress, and to my Aunt Paulette for getting me into the industry, which I talk about a lot of my family in the book, but I wouldn't even know this industry, financial advising, consulting, coaching, all the things that I love. I wouldn't even know it existed if she didn't lead me in this direction. Why was it so important to get it out into the world? I think it's a couple of things. One is practicing what I preach, right? Putting out something into the world also has always been accountability to me. It's always been not just believing in something, but owning it. Actually being in a place where you're practicing what you believe in and creating a rich life, living my legacy and owning the future. I mean, a legacy is all in your own head anyway, right? Every time you say the word legacy, it almost feels like it's too big and it's a bit presumptuous. And I'm always humbled when I think about it. But you know what? My legacy is something that was really important to me. If I died tomorrow, my sons know a bit of my story. My wife knows parts of my life that she didn't know before, and they're small, they're tidbits because you could never fit all the length of the story into it. So it's these quick commercial bites of moments in your life, but how they all come together and create where you are now, I felt was really cool. And at my age and my stage of career, I wanted to get that out to the world. I also really felt like I had an epiphany. When I started my own company and we all went out on our own to create Freedom Street, it was uniquely inspiring to me because I started all over again. And I didn't know it could be this great. I didn't know that I believed in myself always, but I didn't really know how many unbelievable things we could accomplish. I had this long-term vision, but I've exceeded it every single month, every single year, and not from a success standpoint, but from a vision standpoint. And I think when you put that in the book and you share that with someone, if it impacts one person to change their life in a way that helps them grow professionally, personally, as a family person, I think it's amazing. And those are all reasons why I did that.
Have you been surprised by people who've been coming up to you, and the book's only been out a few days at this point, who have felt that? Maybe they were in a place where they were feeling stuck, and hearing someone they know, and that person is you, moving to do something rather unheard of. Have you heard of people kind of feeling like they have a new path forward?
Yeah, you know what I think? I think we've been doing videos for so long and putting stuff out into the world, and we've been putting parts of this book out to the world for a long time, for the last several years now. And I'm amazed at the texts and emails and attaboys and shake of the hands where people are commenting and commending me on a message that just resonates with them. And it's not an ego thing. It's really a thing about, really impacting another human and giving somebody something that I've learned through failure, that I've learned through experience, so that they can actually go and do something on a larger scale. And so with the book, I'm getting similar things. I think certain people are reading parts of the story and feeling super connected. I have family members that, read the first 3 lines in the introduction and they call me immediately like, I don't have to read anything else. I love that. Thank you. And so, a cool story. One of my goddaughters, I have a couple. I have amazing goddaughters, but one of my goddaughters, Rosalie, calls me on FaceTime and tells me that she wants to bring the book to school to read. And, it's the cutest thing in the world because she wants to read it, but why she wants to read it is even better because she wants to see if her name's in it. She thinks that she is so important in my world that her name has to be in this book. And so I told her, I said, your name's not in the book. So I don't want to disappoint you, but you're not in the book because you're my goddaughter, you're my family, you're in my heart. That's the most important thing. You don't have to be in the book. I didn't have to put your name in the book to matter to me. And I think that's a great lesson for everybody. Like, when you're doing the acknowledgments, it's a simple thing, but it's really uniquely uncomfortable because there's too many people to name. So you end up grouping everybody together, and it makes the person maybe feel less if they even care, if they even pay attention. But to me, it was so important to make sure I didn't forget anyone. First impressions of seeing it delivered, we already kind of talked a little bit about what it felt like, but just seeing the finished version of this and understanding, what it looks like to hold something where it's all together. I've been reviewing PDFs and editing PDFs and looking on the computer, and this puts everything together. So some of the things that stood out to me, I mentioned earlier was the dedication, the organization. Then I get to see my forward by a business coach and a friend that I worked with and for years to help develop my practice into what it became. And I get to see a note from one of my business consultants and friends who's seen our business grow at a rate that was really, really great, and his important impact on it and what he had to say about vision and my vision. So, that was the first cool thing. And then just seeing the layout. So the book's laid out in a way that I think really gives people different ways to read this. You don't have to pick it up and read it story to story, line by line, front to back. There's parts where you can open this up, and there are quotes in every chapter, things that matter to me, things that mean something. On the road to riches, money can buy you comfort, but it can't buy you peace. And it goes on to do other things, but Can't Buy Me Love by Paul McCartney and John Lennon. It talks about living a rich life, and then it organizes it with some pop-out boxes, which are individual stories of moments that I had. And then at the end of every chapter, there's questions. At the end of every part, there's 3 parts, there's a larger set of questions. And if somebody just opened this up and went through the questions, I can use these questions to help me reframe my days, to help me reframe my years, my goals, my objectives. And and then there were pictures that stood out to me. The last thing was, just seeing little things like the picture of my wife and I at the wine festival and feeling what that feels like to produce something really cool. Pages like this where it says passion and business and relationships and how they come together for great things. Simple lessons that if people execute and implement upon, what do you love doing? What do you really enjoy doing? And how can your passion and your work and your family and your life and your legacy all come together? That's what that's about. And it's a simple graphic that took a lot to get and put in here, but it's super cool. And so the sub chapters each have different titles that we could build because we wanted to build them for videos. So that's kind of the initial thing that I looked at this about, even the recommended reading. Someone asked me the other day, they said, I gave them the 5 levels of John Maxwell's leadership, his kind of pyramid. And they said, I feel like I'm at a level 3 and I'm inching towards a level 4 leader. And I know this person really well. And I said, I want you to go to the back of the book where it says recommended reading. And I want you to read some of the books in there. Because I think the thing that takes leaders to the next level is studying. Leading is only part of it. It's the study, it's the game film, it's understanding what other people think and why they think it. And I have it right here in the back of the book, some of my favorite books and what helped me get to where I'm at. So little geeky things that really stood out to me, and I felt like that was really something that was important to share.
It's interesting when you have a book and you have a network like you do, people they're curious. Right? Maybe they followed you through your videos. Maybe they have followed you through a wine festival. Maybe they went to school with you. And they're curious, right? So Why does this guy write a book? Like, what does he have to say? Or maybe they followed you and they've seen the success and they're like, I want to know what he's done to be able to achieve that. And this is a guy I went to high school with, or, this is a guy we played on a soccer team together. And so I feel like it's really interesting that the things in your book are things that you've actually done. Like, there are so many, quote, stars out there these days that have achieved 0 to 100 million in a minute or whatever. But really, these are actionable things that you really did. And it's not easy, but they're pretty simple. Like, these are simple concepts, I feel like, that you've touched on in this book.
Right.
Would you say that this is something that is repeatable? As you share it in this book, is it something that is attainable, achievable, repeatable for people who are reading it?
Yeah, you asked so many cool parts to that question. Just putting it out into the world and seeing friends I went to grade school, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade with at Catholic school, comment, buy the book, send me messages that, hey, my sister's in media, let me help you get this out to the world. Hey, I can't wait to read this story. It is repeatable. And I think part of what I wanted to get this message out to is living a legacy and creating one that you die with are 2 different things. And what I mean by that is I am only a part of who I want to be, but I'm sharing the story as it happens. And I think everybody from a repeatable, scalable, can they write their own book? Like, people wait too long to share their story, and life is too short for that. And so I think to some extent, the cool part of that question to me is that I'm just an everyday person putting down what my story is, and it might impact people. It might be boring to others. It might be nowhere near the 0 to 100 million. That isn't me. So, I'm a regular guy who drives a regular truck, who has a really great regular family. And I think when you look at those things and you put them all together, it's just showing people that your story matters, whatever your story is. And there's parts of your story no one knows. But if they did, it might help them do something bigger, be something different, change a thing they're trying to change. And believe me, I'm doing all those same things as well. The intro is super cool because I feel like this was the ode to my family. And, you never know how blessed and lucky you are until, I'll read the first part. If you believe in reincarnation, pray that you come back as the firstborn grandson in an Italian Catholic family full of women. You are Simba, the chosen one, and you're spoiled rotten, not with toys, but with perfect amount of attention. And, thinking back, I can tell you where my head was at. It was, I would be nowhere without the village raising me. And the village was my mom and my dad, of course, as the root. But it was my grandmother who picked me up from the first day of daycare because she couldn't stand me being a block away, and brought me home into the house full of teenage girls, and my uncle, who was my godfather, and, such a guiding light in my life. And when you look at the things I got to experience, the conversations I had, the strength of character around me, the family dynamic, the ability to be who you are and fail and have multiple people check you, or not fail and have your dad check you and them all come to your side and make him look like the evil guy when he was the one trying to create some level of discipline and not make me a spoiled brat. I ate better. My mouth waters every time I think of my grandmother. Her food was amazing. And I can't not think of what she produced and served us and what we had around that dinner table. I wasn't even allowed to sit at the main table, and it was still unbelievable. And so when you talk about an introduction to a book is also an introduction to your life, because I'm sharing stories of my life. I would be nowhere without the strong aunts that helped raise me. My mom as a leader, my dad as a strong man and disciplinarian, my uncles who were entrepreneurs. I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know what that meant until they gave me jobs and let me work in their world. And I realized I could be more than a teacher or a cop. Not that there's anything wrong with being a teacher and a cop. I just only thought those two things existed. So, when I look at this intro, it really guides me into what made me who I am. And that shapes all these stories. All the love that was wrapped up in feeling like you were Simba is something that, even if I wasn't, even if that's not how they felt, that's how I felt. So they did a really great job.
When you were writing this book, who did you imagine would be getting the most out of it, would be seeing your lessons learned as lessons for them?
Yeah, I think you know me well, and so I think I'm always thinking 5 plays ahead. So my goal and objective was that not just financial advisors, even though the book was obviously written with financial advisors in mind and people in the financial community in mind, it was always meant to impact everybody, anybody in business, entrepreneurs, anybody that has their own business story, anyone that gets up every day and goes to work and loves what they do and gives the world the best version of themselves. It was bigger than just one thing. But obviously advisors are going to get a lot out of this story, I think. And, they'll probably see themselves in it, and maybe they'll get the least, and maybe I'll be completely wrong, and it will be everybody that's not the intended audience, because that's the beauty of putting something out in the world. You don't know what the end result's going to be. I'm not here to control it. I'm just here to put it out there and hope that it impacts people.
What do you hope that people get out of this? They read it, and what do you hope that they learn and take away?
I think when I was putting this together, I didn't even really realize the end result to that question, meaning that what I hope they get today is different than what I went into this when I built it. Because what I really hope people get in this is all of the imperfection of life, all of the things that happen to us, all of the story that we're living. It's the right story. It's the right order. It's the right process. It is what it is. And all I tried to show here were learned lessons and life lessons that are attributed to everything unpacking into this one story that is mine. And so, yes, it's been as a CEO of a financial advisor driven company. It's as serving as an individual advisor to clients. It's, organizing a wine festival. It's also a lot of other failures and not success and hiccups and frustrations. And, I think that's what I want people to see. The story is written the right way, even with trauma, even with bad things that have happened in our lives. It is what it is. So, Dr. Kevin Elko always says, so what, now what? And, that is a really big part of my mantra and thought process when we talk about this intro.
I think it's interesting that when you put a rich life in the title, right? You're creating one, you're encouraging other people to do that. Is it all about money? And then what does a rich life mean to you?
Yeah. So I started this part out with a story of my son several years ago asking me at the end of the night. I always used to tuck them in, and my boys would share a room, and my youngest would kind of start to go to sleep, and my oldest would always want to talk, and I'd lay with them, whoever was in the bottom bunk, and we had great questions. I actually recorded one on my phone one time, and I found it on a plane recently, and it's just gold, right? It is defining everything that is a rich life. Those moments, those situations. But my son asked me, Dad, would you be rich if you didn't have us? And I chuckled. I mean, it was a really intellectually funny question. And he meant it, meaning money. He meant it straight money. And I looked at him, I was like, yeah, I'd have more money. Without a doubt. You cost a lot. And your brother costs a lot. And, but I said, buddy, I would have nothing without my family. I didn't realize when I started out getting married and a career that the rich life wasn't focused around being financially free. It wasn't focused around having more so that I had more options. It was very focused for me on goals and successes and all these things. Then you have your first child and you realize you would give everything up for that moment. And so I explained to him the difference between investments in humans and people and the investment in your work, your life, the investment of money. Even though I do it every day, I would be completely poor if I didn't have the things that I live for. And I just spent that time explaining it to him. And I think that's really how I define a rich life.
Some of the obstacles that made you realize that this is a rich life, right? Because if everything is rosy,
right,
like we were talking about earlier, like our kids are living their best life, they are. If everything's rosy, then you actually don't have an idea of what's better. I think. Is that what you would say?
Without failure, we don't really know how good it is to win. Nobody just starts out winning, and if you do, you eventually lose. So business and work and career is all the same. I mean, there was no straight line towards where I ended up or where I'm at today. It was zigzagged all over the place with failures and obstacles. Part of writing this book, when I went through the process, it was really funny to me because I had to go through all these failures, and my wife and I were talking about them, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, but there were so many. There were so many big ones, big things that happened that shaped the trajectory of my life and career, our life together, our careers, our choices as a married couple, as a father and a mother. My parents' lives are different. My sister and my brother's lives are different because we all work together as this big team, right? And so when I look at the obstacles, one I talk about in the book is a job that I was kind of working hard for, and I was getting lost in the role. I was getting lost in what I wanted, and I actually wasn't even assessing if it's what I wanted. I was only assessing that I wanted to win, and I've always had that maybe as a blind spot. I like to win. I really like to win, and I hate losing. And as you get older, you get better at hiding that. But the reality is, when you're going through the steps of a career and a process, and you're competing for a role, you're interviewing, like you don't want to lose. And when you don't get it, you tell yourself, you practice what you write and what you preach in a book, and what you believe fundamentally is a core value, that it's okay, it's all going to be fine, and it's meant to be, and these are things that have to happen. But you actually go from just saying it to yourself to believing it, to visualizing it, to seeing why you're right. And the truth is, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. It made me completely self-assess the career I was in, 15 years in, and go, is this the path I want to continue on? Do I want to work for someone else, or do I have ideas that I need to get out in the world? I love where I worked. I love the people, the company, the culture. I loved it. I don't have any animosity towards anything. And it's funny because when you leave somewhere, you kind of become like a villain. Like, your story can't be, this great, but it really is. And the truth is, I'm very grateful for failure. I'm grateful that somebody was better than me to earn a job or a title over me at that time in my life, because I would never know. You keep going and plugging and going and plugging, and you end up in the wrong path for the wrong reasons, with the wrong people, at the wrong place. And that wasn't me. So I decided not to quickly decide where my next path was going to be. I decided to serve and to work with the person that I was no longer working with, in the role I thought I would have or should have in my brain. And I was wrong. And so the cool thing was, I took the time to then dedicate to learning from it, to growing from it, and charting the path of where I am today. That is, really living that rich life, understanding from those failures and obstacles and growing from it, and then putting yourself in the best position for success.
But this last question ties into this part of creating a rich life. Is, you talked about your sons, and they're beautiful. And it makes sense that, that you've put yourself in a position where your family is so important. But some people don't have that. They're not in good situations. They don't have a spouse. They don't have, children are not part of their path yet. They're burned out. They're struggling. And it's not even getting a promotion, right? It's just like there's no promotion to get, right? So what is the takeaway for that person where the rich life doesn't even seem attainable? Like,
can you live are you asking, like, can you live a rich life if you don't have any level of rich at all as a part of it? Is a rich life possible without any money? Is that kind of where the question is?
Or even a richness of relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's a tough time in many cases. So how do they might look at you and be like, well, it's easy for him to say, like, he's got a beautiful family. Like,
yeah, like this stuff just appeared.
Yeah.
I always love that. I always love that
Yeah.
aspect of a question, because people do assume that where you are now is where you've always been. that's the funniest thing to me because people always forget. I have friends that played professional sports, and people will say, "Oh, you're so lucky." You know, the 20 years of grinding to get one good check is not lucky. It's work. And so I think to your question, which is an awesome question, is for people that don't feel that they're on that path, or they really don't see a rich life being something that they could attain right now. The first thing is they have to start investing in themselves. So the part of this book talks about investing in yourself, investing in, if you don't like where you're at, change it. You are responsible for that. No one else is. The minute you realize that you're responsible for your own path in life is the most empowering moment of your life. And part of my story had me lying on my back punching up all the time. The world was against me. Everybody was against me. And, nothing was going my way the way I had it planned. What? No, I wasn't investing in myself the way I needed to invest in myself. I wasn't adding the skills, objectives, opportunities, meeting the right people, surrounding myself in the right circles. Like, all on me. I'm in a bad relationship? Nope, I wasn't, but I was blessed there. And that is a little bit of luck, by the way. So, marrying the right person is gold. When you find the right relationship to elevate who you are, to grow from this basic version. I always tell my wife, we talk about it all the time, she doesn't think as much about personal growth and development as much as I do, but she's a lot less broken than I am. And so, it's important for me to do those things. But to answer your question, everybody has the choice. That's the beauty of life, is it's your choice. Now, you could be put in a really bad situation, but unfortunately, you're the only one that can get you out of it. So it starts right here with our brains, and start thinking differently. Start visualizing success. We are what we think we are, right? You're not wrong. You are what you think you are. And if you hate your job, and you hate your life, and you hate your family, and you hate, you're just visualizing the result that you want in life. And that's not powerful. And so getting to where we are is really important, but it starts with changing the way we think.
Have you always been this positive?
I think I have. I've done a video that reminded me humbly that no, I wasn't always this positive. And if you ask my family, they would tell you no. I mean, my dad used to tell me, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. And part of that was I always saw something as broken and fixable. So I always wanted to go in and change a dynamic, change someone's situation, help something in a big way. And it also can come across in a way that it's not good enough, that the current situation isn't good enough. And that's not the case. Understanding that is the way the message comes across is growth. It's growing up. And so, I found a letter from my mom when I was 12 or 13 years old, and it was, we were moving and life was changing, and it was very, very stressful. I was leaving Catholic school where I felt like I had it all figured out, and going to public school where I knew nobody, and I didn't know anyone. As an author, I should probably get my words right. I still speak the way I think. But the reality is my mom wrote me a quick note, probably gave me a small gift, and it just reminded me that, life can get hard, but the way you look at it, the way you view it, the way you treat the people around you in it can make it a lot better. And she did so with a strong message that I was not heading in the right path with my thoughts, my words, and the way I was acting. And it was a great reminder. It was a great reminder at 42 when I opened it up and was reading the old note that she wrote from a box full of stuff, that it's still true today. What you put into the world is something that other people are going to receive. And if it's not positive, that sucks. That really sucks. So I feel like it's way better to look at it positively. It doesn't mean I don't have negative days or negative feelings or frustrations. Believe me, they happen. Mostly internally with your family, where you're the weakest and the most human that you'll ever be. Maybe even days at work. But but I like to make it moments, not days, not weeks, not years.
So when you're thinking about a legacy, and you've mentioned it, you have mentioned it, of course. It's a living legacy as opposed to a legacy once you pass. But for you, what does it mean to be living it? Is it always like doing the right thing? Is it always being positive? Is it always being perfect? Like that is, and how does that help you be a better father, husband, business owner, that kind of thing?
I think, your blind spots are your strengths turned up too loud. So everything to me is about the future and the vision, and legacy doesn't scare me. Legacy scares most people. Legacy is a word that most people think is, most people don't have enough confidence in ourselves to even think that it's worth saying about yourself. But I think everyone has a legacy. I think of my grandmother and how her cooking and her service and her love for me was so amazing. I think of my other grandmother and her legacy was how simple she showed love and made you feel like the most important person in the room, no matter who she met. Or the faithful discipline my grandfather portrayed throughout his life as a spiritual leader for his family. Somebody that was amazing. These are legacies, and they would have never said that if you asked any of them. I can guarantee it. I also think when I think back on what it means to have a legacy, it means that you're doing everything you can with what you've been given, right? So I always have this mindset of wanting to live up to my human potential, my God-given human potential. And I feel like if I was blessed with the ability to communicate a certain way, and I don't put videos or a book or something into the world where other people can hear it, then I'm not using the gifts I were given. I'm not putting, if I'm a great baseball player and I don't play baseball where people love my game and I just throw it all away, it's my choice. It's my choice. Absolutely. You have to love it. It's not just about something you're good at. But when you are good at it and you love it, it usually will end with something that other people will want to know about. They'll want to follow it. They'll want to understand it. Or they can learn from your mistakes. And then you take the charitable aspect. If you talk about a fundamental core belief, is I have always believed in giving away more than I probably could or should be at the time I'm at in my life. And I just believe that the more you give, the more you will receive. One of my good friends and financial advisor mentees that I've worked with for years, I individually texting everybody, please buy my book, please get it out there, help us get the word out. She responds back to me, I'm glad you put it all into words, because I'll never forget what you told me when I was thinking about doing something in business, and you told me to always just give more. If you just give more, it's going to come back tenfold. And she said, I'm getting ready to hit a major pinnacle in my career, and I've always thought about that. And the truth is, your legacy should be that you say so many great things and are so wonderful to people that you forget the very things you said to them because it's part of your everyday language, not because you were trying. It's how you're living. And, that's kind of the definition to me is with the charities, the wine festival, these other things. I'm not doing it alone. It's not my legacy. It's just a part of what I'm able to accomplish because I've surrounded myself with unbelievable humans. So, there's so much to unpack there, but the question's so awesome because you choose that path. It's yours.
That was great. I've never heard you say that stuff. Some of it, but
some of it's new. Some of those things are really happening like every day.
Right, that. I think that's interesting. Like it's always evolving, which is that surprising to you?
No, it's what makes life great.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that the evolution of your thoughts help you maybe do more, think more, think bigger.
Isn't that wisdom?
Yeah.
I mean, it's biblical. It goes all the way back to lots and lots of examples in the world. But wisdom comes from experience and reading and learning and actually applying it. And that's all we're doing is learning from our own examples.
As we're talking about creating a rich life, did you want to, as you know, as we're kind of thinking about the part 2 of the book, right? The literally like creating this
Living legacy.
Living your legacy. Do you want to talk specifically about the wine festival, about specific things that you've created, or no? Yes.
No, I think when I think about legacy, I think if I get too specific, then it means that I'm focusing on a thing. Legacy is about, I give the example in the book about eulogies, okay? And I've had the blessing and pleasure of delivering 4, and it's an honor. At my dad's father, my grandfather, they're all good with their hands. My grandfather was a carpenter, and my uncle and my dad can do really cool things and build things, and they have patience, and I can do that with business, and I can do that with speaking, and I can do that with creative marketing and cool things that don't sound cool to someone who is a carpenter. But when it came time to honor him, I stood up in front of the room and honored him in a special way. And I was able to talk about his life. I was able to use my dad's words, my uncle's words, and put that out into the world. And it took everything I had to get through it. And I was honored to be able to do it. So when I think about legacy and living a legacy, it's not about one word, it's not about one act. It's about when all of this is over, do people remember you for the things you wanted them to remember you for? Or do they remember you because you were a hard worker? Or because you were, a good dad, a great husband, a great friend? It's all about the relationships, and that's what we talk about. Cut the business out of it. The business is just a part of all those great relationships. It's a part of how they all unify together. And so it's not one thing. The wine festival is a legacy. $2.5 million going to charity that I've been a part of and had the ability to help lead on a team of people that have done more and accomplished more in their lives than I have yet is unbelievable. That I hope that the wine festival lives on, and I hope that the people that go there have memories about it. And, I'm not in their memory, but it's in my memory. It's in something I'm creating that I've given everything I've got to make it better every year.
Maybe somebody who sees this, goes to the wine fest, will be inspired to do their own thing. Not with wine, maybe with coffee, maybe with
It doesn't matter.
XYZ, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of like just living a life that is honestly in service of others, right?
Yeah, I'm a simple person. Rotary has a mantra, service above self. It's so perfect for life, right? Service above self allows you, when you're focusing on someone other than yourself. So there is a time to focus on just yourself. Sometimes we have to make ourselves the most important thing. But once we've focused inside on ourselves, focusing outside on someone else or something else helps build the inside of who we are. That's huge. Like, to me, it's like when you start helping somebody else through a traumatic event that you also went through, you're healing. You're going through it together. You're building each other up stronger. And this is all a part of making ourselves, towards that living legacy.
Owning your future, let's go with a definition first. What does that mean to you?
It's choice. I think, owning your future is you choosing what it looks like, charting a path and going towards it, and then really facing the truths of what it looks like. As a financial advisor, this is a beautiful thing that we have the pleasure of doing on a regular basis. Every single month, somebody is moving on to their next chapter. Every single month, somebody is, transitioning. Transitions are hard. Changes are hard. But it's a choice and a definitive movement towards the goal that you have
most people avoid it until it happens. So when you talk about owning your future, it's really about owning the choice, not being forced upon to make a decision because you didn't think through the processes of when this would happen. You know, think of someone that's aging and, you know, we're 68 years old and all of a sudden our spouse gets sick and they're retired. And you no longer view your job and career as something that you want to put your energy and time into because the world just got a lot smaller. It's certainly great to have had a charted course to own the future. Whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is your business is, whatever it is that you do as a career, instead of having something or someone else control your destiny. That's really what owning your future is all about.
It's interesting that you go to school for however many years, you plan for X, Y, and Z, and like you're running toward the goal of like retirement or whatever that next step is, and then there's like such little thought right into the actual getting.
What do you do?
Yeah,
oh, you mean getting there, or actually what do you do when you get there?
It, right, and you see it, right? So isn't that interesting how like it's like, oh, retirement, sunset, paradise, or whatever. And then there's really like not that much thought or forethought into the actual part that is after.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Right?
Almost zero. I mean, so taking stock is a reference towards our industry and advisor speak in general, but here's what it is. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And how are you going to get there? Taking stock is evaluating and consolidating all of the things in your life that you'd like to add more time to, more love to, and not less. What happens when you take stock a lot of times is people want to retire. You know, if you work for the government, the city, you're a teacher, you're a cop, whatever it is, and you have a pension, military, you work towards a certain goal and then you're like, once I get there, I got it, I'm done. But most people get there and they're 50 and they've got a huge life ahead of them. And so now you're struggling. It's like having kids, another taking stock, right? I know that I have a teenage son and one that's almost a teenager, and I can tell you that time is very small before they're out. If I wait until they're out to actually decide what I'm going to do with the extra time, no longer Uber driving to all the practices, I have to decide ahead of time and really inventory what are some of the things I want to do. It's okay to think about that stuff. So you don't end up walking into someone's office, sitting across from them with your spouse and going, I can't wait to retire to the country. And the spouse looks at you and says, we have grandchildren, we're not leaving. And you're nowhere near on the same page. And it's no different for your career. I was sitting with a long time, I think a 40-year financial advisor, highly successful, one of the top producers that I know, just unbelievably successful. And we're riding in a car, and I just asked him, he was talking to me about how he really doesn't know what to do when he stops. And I just asked him a simple question. Have you asked your wife what she wants to do, or what she wants you to do, or what she sees you doing more of? And he was like, no, I've never asked her that question. And, you know, it was a very, very humbling experience for him because it's such a simple question, but he was enamored that something so simple could yield such a result. And I think we all get there. I mean, we all have moments in our lives where we just have to take stock and identify what that looks like, decide on the path, and really, you know, lay it out. That has nothing to do with being a financial advisor. Owning your future in the book talks about owning your future, period. But it really breaks down owning your future as a financial advisor. It's probably the most specific part of the book that's geared more towards advisors. But the lessons are for any business owner or for anyone that's looking for that next chapter.
So let's talk about that next stage. Once you've figured out, oh, I talked to my spouse and we're going to run off to an island and never come back, or we're going to get jobs as Uber drivers because we are done with the other Uber driver of our past. I thought that was really funny. But what is that next stage, and how do we make that a reality?
So the hardest part of getting to the next stage is actually doing it. Everybody wants to just try it. I say this all the time. Nike didn't make their slogan, just try it. The tagline is just do it. And so the key is, once you do it, there's this permanence. There's this feeling like it's over and this part of your life is gone. And it's not. It's just new. It's a transition. Part of it is letting go of the past experiences, the past days, the past who you ate lunch with every day and where you ate lunch and what restaurants you went to. It's letting go of that part of your life and building a new one. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't build upon some of those habits, but if you don't build some new habits and new expectations and new objectives and goals, you're probably going to feel really empty, like you missed something. One of the biggest challenges we have in the advisor world is when someone is going to transition out, if they don't let go of what it was, then it can't be as great as it's going to be. And see, we need you to be a hero on the way out so that we can be a hero on the way in, and that's part of the recipe for success, but that's the recipe for success for anyone. I can't tell you how many mother-daughters, father-sons, uncle, nephew, whatever the family member is, they're talking about transitioning the business to their next generation. And the challenge is 2 or 3 big things. Number one, person A that built the business can't let go and can't let the other person have their own failures. We know this as parents, right? We don't want our kids to go through the same things we did, so sometimes we helicopter them. I helicopter a lot less than maybe some of you, but I still helicopter more than my dad and mom did me, right? So one thing is letting go in general and letting someone else make some of the decisions. Let it look and feel a little different. It has to. It can't be yours. It's not yours anymore when you actually move on. Number 2 is the other person identifying, especially when it's family, that you are not mom, dad, uncle, aunt. You are boss, and they are learning, and they don't know everything that you know. And so part of your goal is to help them get all this data that you've spent a career earning and growing and learning. Again, this is not just for advisors, this is parents, right? Talking to our kids and them not listening, and then having an uncle or aunt say the exact same thing you're saying. And they're like, it's amazing. Did you know what Stephanie said to Carson the other day? And he just got it. He loves it. That is our lives, right? Same thing. So it's for the other person to help understand that there's a lot still to learn. And there's some background and some failures you might want to understand before you just tap some new ideas and a new brand on something. And last is to understand is different. It's difficult. It's a little bit of a closing moment in your life. Whenever you change jobs, whenever you step into a new chapter, whenever you do something that's uniquely different, it's a transition. Transitions are not easy. They're not called transitions to be simple. When we transition someone's business, we always say it's imperfect. It's not perfect. They're like, yeah, but you have it dialed in, and it sounds like your process and your system is perfect. And I say, there's no such thing as perfect. There's going to be a new dynamic to this transition, and you're going to feel really uncomfortable. And we'll feel uncomfortable with you at times. And there will be uncomfortable moments at times, but we'll work through it. Like father and son or mother and daughter in a business, you got to let go. You have to let go to what it was to help let it become what it's meant to be. And in order for a business, a child, anything we're raising to become the next best thing they can become, there's got to be a little bit of that let go. There's got to be a little bit of that separation. Any parent that sends their kid off to college has got to feel that. I don't know yet, but I'm not far.
It's hard. Okay, so when this works, right, when you have a business owner, a person who's retiring, who has taken stock, has recognized the next stage is here, whether you want it to be or not, and has let go, How sweet can it be on the other side of that? How great can it be?
Well, I can sit on this side of the desk and I can tell you how to coach somebody to do it. I know the things, the pitfalls. I know how to help individuals with personalities and how to team up the right teams. And I know how to consult with these groups and organizations to develop more successful transitions. I have not been at that stage where I am separating and letting go. So I'm humbly telling you that I empathize in only the way that I felt it from this seat. But it's very, very challenging for anyone. And I've seen how challenging it is for even people that are ready. But when it works, you feel freedom. The book is called Freedom Street. The message is about Freedom Street. It's walking down a path of freedom. You can't feel free if you have all these things that are holding you back. And that goes to life. You can't feel free if your relationships aren't balanced and in good position. You can't feel free if you're still holding on where your give a shit factor is 1,000% on every single item in the business. It can't be. You have to let it go at some point in time, or it will never be what it's going to become. And most people feel this sense of freedom once they've actually committed. You know, committing is a very strong word. When you commit in life to your spouse, when you commit to a career, when you commit to be a father or a mother, it's a lifetime. When you commit to your spirituality, your church, whatever it is, it's a lifetime. And it's strong. But you've committed to this career doesn't mean that you've given up everything that you were. It just means that now you have the freedom to pursue other thoughts, other things, more time with grandchildren, more time learning a new path, but stay fresh. It doesn't hurt to start planning early. I highly recommend for people to plan early. Think through. It'll change. It should change. It's no problem. Just last night, my son asked me if I was going to buy a home in Florida. And I was like, what kind of question is that? Why are you asking me that? He goes, don't you and Mom want to spend more time in Florida when you retire? And I said, yes, we do. We definitely like it warm. He's already thinking past where I've thought in that moment, and he brought me right back to what I believe in. It's something we all have to remind ourselves every day. Not just because it's in a book will I remember it every day.
My questions for you is kind of what's next? What does tomorrow look like for you? And how are you building it? And you talked about, you haven't retired yet. Like you're not letting go just yet because it's not time. But what does tomorrow look like for you, and how maybe this is helping you in that process?
Yeah. So from a conclusion standpoint in the book, the conclusion is simply it's just the beginning. I think that this is a new beginning. It's the conclusion of this chapter of my story, and we're building upon that. There's already old stories here, things that I have to share that are new, that I can't wait to build on. Most importantly, though, I hope the conclusion is that we've impacted one person, 20 people, 100 people, something exponential, that once we impact one, it becomes 10, and 10 become 100, and 100 become 1,000. And that would be the objective, is that the conclusion is to help people be more prepared to understand that when you get to that point where you have to let go, if you have a rich life, if you've been living your legacy, letting go is easy. If you're having to start from scratch and build all of that in a year leading up to leaving, transitioning, retiring, moving, changing jobs, it's not easy. That's when it's hard. Living it, having that richness, having that legacy, understanding what's most important, who is most important, where your love is going, where your time is going. Are they intersecting? Or are they passing each other by? That's the conclusion. And if we impact a couple people, it will lead to more. It's exponential. When I got into this side of the business, I've always loved helping clients, one client at a time. I still love that every single day. I did it yesterday. I will do it the day after. I will continue to help my clients in their major moments. The other thing that I think is really important, though, is that the goal was also to help advisors who will impact hundreds of their clients. And if you help multiple advisors, you're helping thousands of people. And that is the mentality I want everybody that works with us, reads this book, to have. Change your life, change your family, change the world. It's possible, in my opinion. And I know I'm a free thinker, and I'm creative, and I think big, and not everybody thinks like that, but it's really fun to think like that. It's a lot more fun than thinking small.
It really speaks to like seeing possibility where maybe others might not see that. It's like it's interesting. Like it really is. It's a great way to think and kind of feel like there's more as opposed to less.
Right.
What is next for someone who has more questions and wants support? I mean, it's a book and or a video series that they're watching. What are you offering to people to work with you further, or hear more of your ideas, or really get your eyes on their business, or whatever?
I think the biggest objective is we get this out to the world. So book launch is number one. Podcasts, anybody that has a podcast, anybody that wants to have this type of conversation is the kind of podcast I want to go on. It doesn't have to be financial advisor specific. I'd really love the opportunity to get this word out to more people. Number two is if they want to work with us individually, our company is Freedom Street Partners. Individually, scottdanner.com is where you would go to read my story, have an access to some of the blogs that I've created, some of the videos that I've put out. Get more of what we're putting out if this message resonates with you. scottdanner.com, Scott Danner on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. These are all ways that we can continue to put the word out and connect. And most importantly, it can end with being a good book on your shelf. It can end with being a good chapter that you've read, or one story that impacted you. It doesn't have to go further, but if you want it to, there are options at scottdanner.com for you to figure that out and for you to reach out and tell us how much you like it. Obviously on Amazon, we need all of the help we can get, so positive reviews are awesome. They are really, really great. I also am not naive to think that there probably won't be some negative reviews. Someone will buy this book thinking that it could be for them, and maybe it doesn't resonate the way that I want it to. If I'm not putting myself out in the world and having an opinion on something, and thinking that there could be negative results, not only positive, I'm missing out on the truth. The reality is I need as many positive ones as I can get, because that's going to help us get the message out. That's going to help people follow. And that's the message I put out, a message of positivity and success, and one that anybody can activate.